All right, everyone, welcome back to the Fantasy Corner. We've got some good stuff to talk about tonight, hopefully. We're going to start right off the bat with our Chicago Bears. They played the Saints this past week, and they lost 26-23 in overtime, which is way better than I thought they were going to do. I thought Kamara was going to run crazy all over us without Michael Thomas there. So the Bears actually did a pretty good job on defense holding him, and the offense looked, like the offense normally does, not very good, but well enough to muster up a tie going into the end of the game. Not really a whole lot good to say about Nick Foles in this game. I mean, the guy looks like a statue throwing the football. Also, Mitch Trubisky gets hurt on his one run play that he had, designed run play for him. He gets hurt, so now he's out in Los Angeles getting his shoulder looked at. What were some of the takeaways you have from the game, Jimmy?
Um, yeah, like I said, there's not a whole lot of positive on the offensive side. Nick Foles, you bench Mitch because of his decision making, and Nick Foles the past couple of weeks has not been making very good decisions. I know he's kind of hamstrung with that offensive line with everything is fallen apart, and now it looks like there might be even more new pieces this week. But I mean, so you have that Javon Wims fight.
Oh, yeah.
So
How about that?
yeah, and so did I. And then you get backed up, and then the next play you throw a pick, and there's nobody near the guy. And I know Nagy came out and said something similar. He doesn't understand why we're not getting in and out of the huddle or getting the calls played on time when he's got the Tim Tebow wrist guard that has all the plays right on it. So I'm not sure once again why they're not getting in and out of their breaks. Once again they were burning timeouts early, so they're not getting delayed games. Anthony Miller, I think he may be done. I mean, he'll show up every once in a while, but he's not the number two that they were expecting. That seems to be Darnell Mooney. Ted Ginn was a healthy scratch, and now he's been cut. So they got Dwayne Harris returning punts. So I guess that's something. At least he'll catch the ball, unlike Ginn. Montgomery played okay. He's leading the league in or at least number two in yards after contact. I mean, really, I don't know if it's so much on him or just that the O-line is so bad that
Yeah.
you're getting hit, as soon as you get the ball. So yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of good going on the offense. Really just thank God that we got that defense, because otherwise that would have been a blowout. I thought Kamara, like you said, was gonna he definitely got his points in the passing game, but he was not running all over us like I thought he would.
No, and Latavius Murray actually was having a decent game too with the way he was running the ball. When they'd bring him in as the big bruising back, he'd have a good couple runs. But getting back to Javon Wims, I mean, we've seen so this Bears team, we've seen probably one of the best catches we've seen in a long time with Jimmy Graham with that one-handed touchdown, and then what was it? Anthony Miller had a really good one-handed catch the other night too. Didn't he have that awesome one-handed catch before he went to the ground and they determined it was a catch? So I mean,
Yeah, that one.
we've seen some really good plays out of this Bears team on offense, which is shocking considering they're awful. But Javon Wims, you you get into a fight over a guy because he snatched your mouth guard. I mean, is really that what is it's all about? He snatched your mouth guard and said some choice four-letter words about you. So you run up to the guy and sucker punch him twice, and guess what? The guy didn't even flinch. He got hit twice in the helmet, and he didn't even flinch. And he was looking around going, "What is going on?" And all of a sudden, Javon Wims is jumping on him and everything, and both teams are scrumming at it. And the second part of that is, how stupid are you to punch someone in the helmet with your hand when your life is completely dependent upon your hands? If you can't catch a football, you can't do anything. And honestly, they don't use them anyway. So, in my opinion, it's a cuttable offense, especially because, one, you cost your team yardage and you get ejected, and now you're facing a 2-game suspension. If I were the Bears, I would cut him right now and be done with him. As nowhere on the football field is that necessary. If you want to beat up a guy, beat him up on the next play when you can try to pancake block him or maybe get a guard come out and pull and knock him down. You don't punch anyone on the football field. There's just no place for that in the NFL. There's no place for that in high school. There's no place for that in college. So, that's our little PSA today, kids. Don't get into a fist fight with someone wearing a helmet. It's stupid. All right, enough of that. So moving on from that game, let's move on to a guy who's making a hard case for MVP this year is Dalvin Cook. I mean, he missed one game, and then they had the bye week. he scored 4 touchdowns against Green Bay this week, 3 rushing and 1 catching, and had like 48 fantasy points because he had 30 carries for 163 yards. You can see why this offense really leans on him. He scored every point. Jimmy, he scored every point in that game. There was no one else. I had Adam Thielen. He didn't do anything. He had like 3 catches for 50 yards maybe. So Dalvin Cook, you think legit MVP candidate or just playing a bad Green Bay Packers rush defense?
A little bit of both. I mean, like you said, he missed a game, maybe a game and a half, and then they were on bye, and he was still, I think, like top 3, top 4 for rushing yards. Yeah, I mean, he's just a monster. I mean, it makes you wonder how long they're gonna keep doing that Kirk Cousins experiment. I mean, you're paying the guy 30 million guaranteed or whatever it is with his extension. I mean, I don't know with you should be able to get the same kind of production out of Nate Stanley or something like that. I mean, you can save the 30 million. I mean, they're already in cap hell anyway, and they've been trying to shed wherever they can. Yeah, I mean, it's Delvin Cook's team. Like Thielen is nice. It's a nice piece because obviously you're not
No.
gonna go Eddie George run 50 times a game.
No.
But yeah, I mean, I think he's up there for MVP. I mean, I think unless you have a crazy season at running back, it's really hard to beat out somebody like the jersey you're wearing or Mahomes, somebody that's going to put up crazy numbers and they're in the face of a franchise position. But
Sure.
yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely up there like Derrick Henry was last year.
Yeah, and what's crazy about, Dalvin Cook is I feel like he has he been in the league long? Is this his 4th year in the league, 5th year in the league? How long has he been around?
I think it's fourth.
4th year in the league. I mean, it seems like his production is completely dependent upon the team they're playing, which maybe also kind of hurts him with the MVP stuff. I mean, Russell Wilson is, lights out against anybody you put out in the field right now. So, and Aaron Jones is even looking like he was okay. I mean, he was hurt. He's been hurt, on and off. So he's been having some problems. But, Derrick Henry is one of those players where, you hand him the rock, it doesn't matter who he's up against. He's going to blow through that line like a bulldozer through a wall. Dalvin Cook seems like he needs a little bit more finesse and a little bit more of an alley to get through, whereas Derrick Henry will just blow through and he'll knock his offensive lineman down to get through the defensive lineman. But it was good to see the Minnesota Vikings beat up on the Packers. Now we do have the Packers playing, right now, or they just finished up this game tonight. So we had our sleepers picked beforehand. So when we get to that, we'll let everyone know these were picked prior to the game. We did not know, and I'm going to give you a hint. We both didn't do well. So,
Right.
so when we get to the sleepers, you'll understand why when you see. But moving on to the next game, Devontae Adams in that game. So it was kind of like the game Minnesota versus Green Bay was the game of one wide receiver versus one running back. Who's going to score more points? Devontae Adams had 3 touchdown catches and I think 150 or 160 yards receiving. So again, do we get into? Is it a product of who they're playing, or is Devontae Adams just that good? What do you think, Jimmy?
Yeah, I mean, I think I wouldn't say he's underrated, but I think he could be along those lines because a lot of times when you think of the Packers, you only think of Aaron Rodgers and you think, I mean, just like we talked previously in this draft, you don't get him a weapon. He has no weapons. That's the first thing everyone thinks about. And then if you stop and look and you're like, okay, Aaron Jones, that might be a top 5 back. Devontae Adams, he might be a top 3, top 5 receiver. So I mean, it's one of those things where there's just that narrative from years past where I think he gets kind of overshadowed by Rodgers, which I mean, it's understandable. But yeah, I think he's a monster. I think um, he can produce against anybody really. Now I don't think like when he goes up against say the Bears or somebody that has a good number one. I don't think he's going to be putting up, 10, 160 and 3 touchdowns again. But, I mean, with Aaron Rodgers throwing it to you, you never know.
Yeah, that's true. All right, let's move on to the New York Giants playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this past week. The Giants put up a heck of a fight, all things considered. They have no Saquon Barkley. They actually had a good receiving core this week. They had a good, healthy receiving core. And Tampa Bay ended up winning 25-23, I think was the final. Tom Brady looked okay in this game. I mean, nothing. He didn't light the world on fire. do you see that being an issue going forward for Tampa Bay, that they had such a hard time handling the Giants, and they've got a tough matchup against the Saints this week coming up?
Yeah, so I've been kind of beating that drum um, since TB12 signed in Tampa Bay. I just don't. All we keep hearing is as soon as this offense starts gelling, look out. It's week 8, it's week 9. It hasn't gelled yet. I
Yeah.
know there's been injuries. I know Godwin, fractured his hand, fractured his finger, or whatever. But you had Mike Evans. You still have Gronk, and I mean, it's not like he had world beaters when he was in New England. So he's used to kind of working with a cast of characters that maybe nobody else would want. But it's still not gelling. Something is off down there. I mean, you can see him yelling at his old line. You can see him yelling at receivers that are stopping their route, not working back to the ball, stuff that he hasn't had to worry about for the past 20 years when he had his guys. Now, that being said, I mean, I think it's an easy fix. I do think they're going to probably lose to New Orleans. I think New Orleans is going to win that division. But they seem to be, I mean, they lost to the Bears. So they seem to be doing what the Bears do and play down to their competition. And if you're not perfect, then, I mean, luckily they escaped with a W here against a horrible Giants team. But if you're not perfect and you're playing a good team, it's just not a good recipe.
Yeah, and then don't forget they've got Antonio Brown, who is eligible to play
Oh.
this week. So, he's going to be – will he be a factor in this game? I don't know. I mean, they're talking about he might do punt returns and kickoff returns because he's still got the speed. And apparently he was very impressive in practice with how good of shape he was in, which, high-quality athletes like that don't get out of shape. Those guys stay in shape the whole time thinking they're going to get a job. So he was just waiting out this suspension, and he knew someone was going to come knocking eventually. It just happens to be Tampa Bay and his old buddy Tom Brady, who he was rocking a TB12 hat in the press conference the other day. So I think Tom and him, amazingly enough, for how different they are, gel really well. I mean, it's kind of like Randy Moss and Tom Brady when he was in New England. Two completely different type of personalities that you would not expect to work well together. But look at that. I mean, not that I'm saying he's going to have the type of season Randy Moss had in 2007, where Tom Brady was lighting the world on fire, throwing everything to Randy Moss. But he adds another dynamic to that team where you can get him out of the slot. He can maybe take double coverage if he needs it. So I could definitely see like Mike Evans having big games with Antonio Brown out there if he plays a significant amount of snaps, where they're going to put a lot of maybe a safety over the top on him to make sure he doesn't get that deep ball. And then you got Mike Evans just chipping away under the middle, taking off the middle of the field or doing that in route to get a slant pass or something. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Antonio Brown when he actually gets on the field this year.
Yeah, Antonio Brown is actually staying with Brady at his house right now
He
while
did that in
he's
New England
looking.
too.
Yeah, so I mean, I think like you said, they're gelling. I mean, if they get that offense gelling with those kind of weapons, I mean, when Leonard Fournette is your number 2 running back, and you got Godwin, you got Evans when he's healthy, and then like you said, you throw in Antonio Brown. I mean, the defense is already better. I mean, they have the talent. It's just getting everybody to buy in.
Well, and I don't even know if it's necessarily that they're not bought in. I think it's Bruce Arians is notorious for making offenses around who he has. So he got to remember that he's got an offense with all these fun toys to play with, and Tom Brady, who is a legend. But you got to remember his offensive line. They've got, they're only 9 games in. They didn't have preseason. They didn't have OTAs. So a lot of the stuff that, Brady might work on as far as, line calls and shifts and also audibles, these guys are still kind of learning on the fly. So I could see where, there's that learning curve a little bit with the offensive line because there's a lot to know. Like if he yells out, echo one, if they don't, if they don't remember what that is, they got to remember, oh, that's shift protection to the right, shift protection to the left or whatever. They just don't know that stuff yet that he had in New England where he had the same offensive line for how many years. I mean, those guys knew what he was coming before he knew it was coming. So, it's just a matter of trust and building that relationship, which if they start really clicking here, watch out. I mean, they could be a really good team, real scary team making a deep run, possibly going to the Super Bowl. I predict them to go to the Super Bowl because, Tom Brady that's what he does. But I think it could be Seattle and Baltimore this year, even though Baltimore's kind of looking iffy right now. And I really haven't seen a whole lot of Kansas City games. I know they're blowing people out. So, but what else is new when you got Hall of Famer Pat Mahomes on the team? How about Tua? We got Tua down in Miami making his first start going. What I have down here? He had 93 passing yards and 1 touchdown. Future franchise right there. Ryan Fitzpatrick can have 4 touchdown passes and he gets benched, but Tua throws 1 and look out, we're going to be the best team in the world. Kind of got bailed out by his defense and special teams. They both had a touchdown, so 14 of the 28 points scored were from a defensive or special teams play, which is, helps. But what did you think about Tua? One other thing. There's also some rumor that they're apparently auditioning him for the next 10 games or whatever, because they're going to have 2 first-round picks coming up next time, and one of them's going to be pretty high based on their record or whatever record they got from Houston. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that. But what do you think about that, the auditioning, and then also how he actually played?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I thought I saw somewhere Flora said they weren't doing an audition. I still think it was weird timing to bench Fitzpatrick when,
Yeah.
I mean, I know we talked about we weren't sure. I mean, obviously after that hit he took on his first play, that hip seems to be just fine. But yeah, I mean, definitely not the start that you wanted when he's supposed to be the savior. I was talking with different people online about it, and it's his first game. Well, Joe Burrow had a pretty good first game. I mean, Justin Herbert had a pretty good first game. So I mean, you can't say it's just the first game. It's like Joe Burrow had a good game, and he was the starter right out of the gate. Like when we talked about Herbert. So Tua, I mean, I guess jury's still out. I'm not a big fan of left-handed quarterbacks anyway.
No.
I mean, short of Steve
Young.
Young. Yeah, I mean, they kind of flame out.
Michael Vick.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I guess it's cool if you're a Dolphins fan, so you can see that. But I don't buy any of the, auditioning. And even if they were to get the number 1 pick, I mean, that's going to get traded. I don't even see them taking Lawrence. I mean, I guess they could. I mean, after what the Cardinals did, but he's going to be the starter, barring injury, next 10 years or so.
Could you imagine if they picked Trevor Lawrence first? You had Tua and Trevor Lawrence on the same team, and they wouldn't do that. They'd trade one of them. It would obviously be probably 2. I mean, if you have a shot at getting Trevor Lawrence and legitimately you want him, you're trading Tua. You're probably going to do a trade on draft day to someone for that pick or whatever. But let's get to the Rams only scored 17 points in that game, which was kind of surprising considering how good their offense can look sometimes. Maybe it was the Miami, I think they were playing in Miami, weren't they?
I think so, yeah.
Maybe it was the Miami Heat they had, some issues with or something, but only scoring 17 points, and, Jared Goff didn't look that great in the game. But let's get to some stuff that Jimmy had here. So we've got you want to talk about what you got on the table here?
Well, I mean, we already kind of talked about Mitch getting hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, I was calling for that Taysom Hill sub package. I think he has basically the same skill set as Taysom Hill for maybe a little less money, as odd as that is. And then, I mean, they run one play and then he gets hurt. So it's like, okay, well, never mind. Maybe they knew what they were talking about with not having him run because, like I said, one play lands on his shoulder and now he's getting it. And now it's Tyler Bray season. So, yeah, I mean, with everything with that offense, and I mean, they were showing Allen Robinson on the sideline, not even standing with the offense. I mean, he's just at the other end, just mad. I don't think he resigns next year unless they tag him. I don't think he's coming back.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
I actually had a conversation with a coworker today that, they're so far off in money as far as what he wants versus what the Bears are offering that I could definitely see the Bears had their chance to trade him and they didn't do it. So they're going to either do one of two things, tag and trade, or they're going to have to just let him walk, or they can try to tag him. But again, he wants $20 million. He wants $20 million a year. And I don't think he's worth $20 million a year, but he does. So that's where it's at.
You think with that, I mean, it's kind of one of those things with like quarterback deals. It's just gonna keep going. That's just the kind of market for him. Now,
Yeah.
I would probably say I would go more 18 a year for him, but I think it's gonna be a tag at the very least. I mean, if you can tag and trade and get a 1 for him, I mean, I would take that as well. Let's see what else I have, and then we kind of talked about, or we're going to talk about Joe Burrow. I mean, that might have been the biggest upset of the weekend. I mean, I think the Titans were only 5-point favorites, but I was hammering the Titans, and Joe B just came out of nowhere. I mean, he's as advertised, which,
Yeah.
like I said a couple podcasts ago, the his charting to the NFL is completely ridiculous. From being like a third stringer at Ohio State, can't even see the field, couldn't beat out Dwayne Haskins, goes to LSU, and his pre-draft stock before the season started was like a sixth or seventh round, and he goes number one. Maybe has the greatest college season of all time, and it's not a flash in the pan. I mean, he's been really good on a bad team, and really none of their losses have been on him.
No, behind a bad offensive line too. I mean, keep in mind that he's taken a lot of hits already in his, in the first 8 games because I think they've already had a bye week. No, the bye week's this week. So their first 8 games that he's played in, I mean, he's taken quite a beating on that side of the ball. Now, obviously, this past week, Jadeveon Clowney and who's the other guy? Beasley didn't touch him one time, or didn't get a sack at least. So he was pretty protected this week. But there's been prior weeks where he's been on his back quite a bit. They've given up quite a few sacks and he's taken quite a few hits.
Well, this week they also had like 3 new starters.
Yeah,
They had injuries and stuff, so might be kind of like the Bears when they switch people out. They may a little better, but
Oh, I got a name. Here's a name for you. Cooper Rush. Who's that?
that's Tony Romo light, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah,
New starting quarterback in Dallas.
I don't. Yeah, Danucci. I seen some draft pundits and they were like, this Danucci guy, watch him in the 7th round. The Cowboys know what they're doing. It looks like they don't. Yeah, it's Cooper Rush or Garrett Gilbert, who being a Texas guy, I mean, he couldn't even win the starting job at Texas. He had to go to SMU. So no, thank you. I would just run Wildcat, just have Zeke back there and Pollard, and that's what we're doing. We're not doing anything else.
No
Yeah,
quarterback. No need
quarterback.
no need for a wide receiver. We're running
Right.
three tight ends, a fullback, and 2 running backs out there. That's all we got.
Yeah, Dallas. I just don't understand how Dallas can be so bad. I mean, I think we talked about it before. It's not even so much lack of talent like it is with like the Jets. It's just they just don't care. As soon as Dak went down,
they
like
threw in
we
the
said
towel.
previously, it's over. We'll see what we can do. Play for our contract. We're a free agent. I'll make some splash plays so I can make a contract next year, and that's about it.
Yeah, and we got Dallas. Dallas and the Jets are both really bad. Have the Jets won a game yet? I think they're 0 and whatever, right?
Yeah, they're 0-8.
So there's potential for them to go 0 and 16 and wear the garbage bags over their heads. But we never, granted, I don't really care about the Jets, but you never want to see a team go 0 and 16. You want to see a team get at least one win.
It's super hard to go 0 and 16. Like you almost have to be trying.
Yeah. You almost have to try to do it. Like
right.
Sam Darnold's seeing ghosts of his dead shoulder already. All right, so let's move on to the picks from last week. So last week's picks, I went 1 and 3. Jimmy was 2 and 2. I think the only one I hit was Pittsburgh. I think was it Atlanta?
Yeah, Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
Atlanta.
Pittsburgh. Yeah. Yeah, Pittsburgh hit. Atlanta and Denver didn't hit, and then the Jets. No, I'm sorry. I'm looking at this week's picks. Yeah. Whatever my pick was hit last week. Jimmy hit 2. We both tanked our sleeper again. So
always.
It never works. So this week, let's go ahead and go through our picks. Now, obviously, we just saw the Green Bay Packers win by what? Will they win by 14? No, 17. 17 points. So I picked Green Bay to win. That was not my pick. Jimmy, you picked Green Bay to win at -6.5. So Jimmy's already 1-0. He's already at
1-0, baby.
Well, 1-1 really, because you.
Well, we don't count that. We don't count sleepers anymore.
So let's move on to the next one that we haven't already seen and know about the win. Baltimore versus Indy. Baltimore's getting 1.5. I'm taking Baltimore here. I think they're going to – I mean, Indy's a good team now. I mean, they scored 41 points this past week. But I'm taking Baltimore. I think the Lamar Jackson show is going to really show up this week.
Yeah, same thing. I like Indy, but I know Phillip Rivers has a pick six in him somewhere. So I have Baltimore.
One or 5. Let's see. Carolina versus Kansas City. Kansas City is giving 10.5 points in this game. That's kind of high if you ask me. I would think that number would be a little bit closer, especially if Christian McCaffrey comes back. I kind of wonder what that line is going to move if he officially does play. But I'm picking Kansas City anyway.
Yeah, I'm going Kansas City. I mean, I Carolina burned me last week. I was all in on that Teddy B train, and it derailed quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going Kansas City, and I think even if CMC is back, it might still be 10.5.
Chicago versus Tennessee. Tennessee is a 6.5 point favorite. Uh, Again, I'm not picking Chicago anymore. I just don't trust them. So I'm going to go with Tennessee, even after a tough loss against a bad Bengals team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the stats, but I know the Bears have done pretty well against the spread this year. I'm still taking Tennessee. We were a little wrong with the Kamara love last week. I think Derrick Henry is just going to tear him a new one.
Yeah, I mean, Alvin Kamara is, a smaller running back. He's slighter. He's quick.
Shifty.
He's shifty, but when you're shifty, you got Eddie Jackson, you got Buster Screen, you got these safeties and cornerbacks who are shifty themselves who can get up there and make a good stop. Derrick Henry will run at you like a grown man. So I, Kyle Fuller better make sure he hits low because if he doesn't hit high, he's just gonna be laying flat on the ground for the rest of the game. All right, Denver versus Atlanta. Atlanta's given 4 points here. I'm taking Atlanta minus the 4. I could see them having a real good game. I'm not sure. I think this game is in Atlanta, so it's going to be inside. If it is, it's going to be inside. Air controlled and no possibility of snow on the ground. So I'm taking Atlanta minus the 4.
Yeah, I'm going to take Denver. I still like Denver's defense is better than what people think it is, and Drew Lock seems like he's getting some more of his weapons back.
Houston versus Jacksonville. Houston is a -6 this week. I'm rolling with Houston. I think they're going to pull out the win against Jacksonville.
Yeah, this one I wasn't too sure about. I'm just going to go with Jacksonville. Um, Actually, now that I think about it, what the hell was I thinking? I'm going Houston. I forgot they're starting like Jake Luton or
Yeah.
something like that for Jacksonville. Now, if it was the draft, Mike Glennon, oh, I would take the points in Jacksonville all day. But since it's Jake Luton, we'll go Houston.
All right, we got the Giants versus the Washington football team. The Washington football team's favored in this one by 2.5 points. I'm sticking with Washington. I think the Giants are still pretty bad, even though they put up a good game against Tampa Bay.
Yeah, same. I just don't really trust Danny Dimes. That Washington front seven is pretty stout, and then our guy Scary Terry's on there too.
Seattle versus Buffalo. Seattle's getting 3 points or giving 3 points, which kind of surprises me that that's not higher. I mean, they're high flying offense that they have, but they also have a defense that can't stop anyone. So Seattle, I'm taking them. I'm not. This is not my first. This is not my second pick. This is just taking Seattle.
So this is my second pick. I basically said last week that I pretty much plan on taking Seattle um, and the points for the rest of the year. Like I said, the defense can't stop anybody, but nobody can stop their offense. So I think, yeah, I just don't see Buffalo stopping them.
Okay. We got the Las Vegas Raiders, who will side note on them after this talk. Um, Against the Los Angeles Chargers, the Chargers are given 1.5. I don't think they're going to have a bad game this week. I think they're going to come out firing and want to prove that Justin Herbert can have every more than one good game or more than 5 good games. So I'm going with the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, he had a pretty good game versus Denver. They just kind of choked it away in the last seconds. I'm going to go Raiders. I just think, especially with what you're about to talk about now, they're going to be pissed off. And I mean, that defense, once again, is better than people think it is.
So the reason why the Raiders are going to be pissed off is they're getting fined $500,000. John Gruden is being fined $150,000 for a positive COVID test out of one of their offensive linemen, who basically put the whole entire offensive line on quarantine for a few days before they figured out that only one of them had it. They're also going to lose a 6th-round draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the biggest penalty a team has taken for having COVID issues. Now, is it really the person's fault they got COVID? No. I mean, were they not being careful? Possibly. They really didn't say how he got it. I don't know if he got it from a family member or someone on the team or something else. But, John Gruden is constantly running around without a face mask on the field. He's got it pulled down here or under his nose, or he's got it, completely under his chin, yelling across the field like he does, just spit flying everywhere. So I can see why they got the fine and why he's getting fined. Losing the draft pick, though, I mean, the ownership's not going to be happy with him on that one. And they may have granted, John Gruden is basically one of the owners now because he's got a part stake in the team, it seems. But they're not going to be happy with him on that. losing draft picks. You never want to lose draft capital, especially for something that stupid. So
Right. They so I looked and it's like their second or third offense total. I mean, with the sideline, and then they got fined because they had unauthorized personnel in the locker room as well. So all told, it's going to be like $1.4 million in fines and a
ugh,
loss of a sixth-round pick.
this
When
year,
all you,
right? This year.
right this
Oh,
year, when all you have to do is just wear a damn mask.
just like Joe Biden said, wear a mask, people. That's all you have to do. All right, moving on. Miami versus Arizona. Arizona's giving 3.5 points. I'm taking Arizona in that game. I think they're going to have a really good year to finish out.
Yeah, this is my third and final pick. Arizona minus 3.5. I mean, the defense is pretty good. And I mean, that offense, I mean, we already know what Hopkins and those guys are doing. And I mean, it's another, I don't think two is going to get bailed out with two or three, defensive and special teams touchdowns.
All right, next game, Pittsburgh versus Dallas. Pittsburgh is giving 13.5 points. I'm kind of surprised it's not more than that, considering how terrible the Dallas defense is and how good the Pittsburgh offense is. I'm taking Pittsburgh in the points, so that's my second. That's my second pick. So I'm taking the points with Pittsburgh minus 13.5.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I know you like to always hit on those giant ones. And this one, I honestly, like you said, I'm not sure why it's not more because, I mean, it feels like they could win like 40-0 against that team. So I'm taking Pittsburgh as well.
Okay. We got New Orleans versus Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is giving 4 points. I'm going Tampa Bay. I'm thinking they're going to be pissed off after almost losing the Giants, and they're going to beat up on New Orleans this week.
Yeah, I'm going to go New Orleans. I know they beat them earlier in the season, but I just don't believe in Tampa Bay yet.
Okay. New England versus the Jets. New England is -7. I am going to take the Jets plus the points. Now, I'm not picking them to win. I am strictly taking the points. I can see this being like a 20-14 game, or whatever, and the points are going to get me over. So that's my third pick.
3-2. Yeah, I want to go. I want to go New England. And basically has nothing to do with New England's offense because that is non-existent. Cam Newton left his throwing arm in Carolina apparently. But that defense is still has some dogs if everybody's healthy. So I think they can shut down Darnold.
All right, we've got one that's not on here. Minnesota versus Detroit. Matthew Stafford had a positive COVID test. So I don't know if that game was up in limbo. It wasn't listed in FanDuel. At least it wasn't until maybe it is now. But it wasn't listed earlier today. So that's why I didn't make my list because they weren't even putting it on there for odds. But I believe this Minnesota was -7, I think. I will take Minnesota in that game, regardless, not without or with the points. So I would pick Minnesota for that game.
Yeah, that one. I mean, I guess if uh, you don't have any faith in Chase Daniels, I mean,
If it's
it's our
him,
guy.
is it him? Is it him starting or is it someone else? I
I
don't
don't
even
know.
know.
I mean, it would be him. I don't know if it's Stafford or not. Yeah, I would probably still take Minnesota. I mean, I think they're going to be riding a high after that Green Bay game.
Yeah. All right. So here's our Monday night or Thursday night sleepers that we already know didn't hit. Uh,
So
I
close.
I was originally now before Aaron Jones decided to play. I was going with Green Bay's running backs going over 100 yards because they had Dexter Williams and two other people I've never heard of. But Aaron Jones ended up playing, so I'm like, okay, well, I can't do that because Aaron Jones can get 100 yards by himself easily. So I changed it to Marquez Valdez-Scantling getting 75 yards and a touchdown. He got 53 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I was half right, not the full half. Jimmy, what was your pick?
My pick was I had Nick Mullins for under 300 yards.
No, you didn't.
I had Nick Mullins under 250. Garbage time came back to bite me in the ass. He finished with 291.
He finished with 291. I didn't even see that. Wow.
Yeah.
291 to finish the game. So tallying it up from this past week, Ben and Jimmy are tied again at 13. We get one apart from each other, and we have a good week, bad week, and we get tied back up again. Now let's get to our fantasy picks. Full disclosure, and Jimmy did the math on this. I believe he beat me by 0.63, something like that, 0.63 or 0.34. I thought I had it in the bag, and then he wrote me, I don't know what time it was, Sunday night, saying I'm beating you right now, 187 point this to 187 point that. And I could not believe I got burned again. I cannot pick winners to save my life as far as fantasy goes. And it's proven in this, and it's proven in my real fantasy league. So probably do the opposite of whatever I tell you tonight. Just don't pick the guys I pick because they'll probably do terrible, but we'll see. All right, so I'll run through my team real quick. So at quarterback, I'm going with Big Ben. I think he's going to have a great week. I'm going with Dalvin Cook at running back, Kamara at my second running back. I'm going to go, well, Devontae Adams already had what? I don't know how many points he had this week. We got to figure that out. Running the DK train, Travis Kelce. Going with Nuke at my flex, Will Lutz at my kicker, and I'm going with the Pittsburgh defense because I think they may pitch a shutout against Dallas.
Yeah, so I beat you, and you had both Cook and Devontae Adams last week, and I had Mike Davis at flex. I tried throwing you a bone, and you just refused to take it. Devontae Adams, 10 catches, 173 yards, and a touchdown.
So 10 for 173, that's 10 points for the catches. That's 17.3, so 34 points already.
Yeah.
Roughly.
So I was just going to leave my lineup probably just the same rest of the year. Didn't matter if there was bye weeks or not, just figure whatever. But Ben liked to copy most of my players, so I'm going to switch it up and add some wild cards in here. I'm going to go on a huge limb here. I'm going to go Russ, starting quarterback, Kamara, because he just stays in. Derrick Henry, like we talked about in the rundown, I think he's just going to beat the hell out of the Bears on the ground. We like the same receivers, Devontae Adams, DK Train. He's also going to be in the lineup every week. I did have Kelce, but like I said, I wanted somebody different. So I'm going to go Noah Fant. I think that defense has given up the second or third most points to tight ends. So why not? And then flex, we're going to go Calvin Ridley. He's also just been a monster no matter who they play. My kicker, I have the GOAT, Justin Tucker. And then defense, I could pick Pittsburgh nice and easy like you. But I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to go with Arizona versus Tua.
Okay, now I will tell you, Calvin Ridley was questionable this week, and he's projected to score 0 points. So
that don't scare me.
Yeah, you don't need him anyway. You don't need him anyway.
I don't need him.
You didn't need Jamal Williams.
I just needed the name on the sheet, man. That's all it was.
You didn't need, what was it? Was it Jamal Williams or Aaron Jones you had the one week, and they didn't even
Aaron Jones, I think it was.
And he scored 0 points, and crushed me terribly. One little small nugget. The San Francisco 49ers tonight. We forgot to mention this because it was just because they were playing. They had 4 guys have false positives for COVID. So because they had a positive test earlier in the week, like 2 days ago, and then they had a false positive, they could not play. So the 49ers were without Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, not Jared McKinnon, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, who's the other guy? Not Jared McKinnon. Kendrick Bourne. And then there was
Coleman.
Tevin Coleman was already out, I think, but
Mostert
was out, and then the offensive line.
Wilson, yeah. Did you see the graphic? And they said that from last year's NFC Championship game or last year's Super Bowl,
all the players that aren't there anymore are hurt.
Well, yeah, it's like 8 of them, and 7 of them are out, and the only one that is active is Matt Breida, and he's in Miami.
Well, and he's hurt now too, so double whammy there. He's hurt in a different city, so he's terrible in another place. But that's it for us this week, guys. There was an election this week. We still don't know who's won, but thank everyone for voting. If you did vote, I know Jimmy did. I did. So you did your part in this crazy political machine we call the United States. Keep wearing those masks. State of Illinois is getting pretty bad right now, so wear those masks, please, and let's keep us safe. But that's it for us this week. We'll see you next time in the corner. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. You can find us on Facebook at BJ's Fantasy Corner. Johnny Lopez, shout out to my buddy Johnny from college. He got some wise tips tonight from Aaron Rodgers starting over to Deshaun Watson. That got him probably about 30 points, I think. So
you're welcome.
You're welcome, Johnny. But catch us next time on the corner, guys, and have a good night.